What's up, Lore Masters? This is the second video of my two-part Defiant series. I'm going to be jumping right into it, so if you want any of this episode to make any sense, check out part 1. You can check that out right about now. With that out of the way, let's just get into it. Before I continue breaking down the lore, let me address a few of the arguments that have come up in my first video. The first argument that is common is that the Defiant was the first ship solely dedicated to war. This is inaccurate, as we see the Defiant multiple times utilized for scientific experimentation. In fact, in the episode One Little Ship, there's a comment by one of the officers that they are relieved that they are getting back to doing scientific research. Additionally, when we look at the firepower of a Constitution-class ship, it has the ability to destroy half of a continent within seconds, a full continent within minutes, and presumably a planet within hours. If you have that much firepower, you are a warship daylighting as a science ship. I don't even know that I would accept the argument that the mentality behind the original series ships was for science first and defense second. I sincerely believe these ships were made as ships of war to fight the Klingon threat. But then, when they weren't doing that, would do other missions including scientific research, police actions, and civilian aid. I know many will disagree with me, but the layouts and armaments of the Constitution, Miranda, and Excelsior speak for themselves. Another concern was that this was a second video in rehash of the information that I had done on another video. It's not. My first video was on the Defiant class. Check the top right hand corner to see it again. This is on the ship named Defiant. Now, I did address a common complaint of my Defiant class video, which is everyone claims I stole jokes from SF Debris, so I just embraced that meme. But beyond that, this is actually different lore. This is talking about a ship, not necessarily its class. Lastly, many came to the defense of the Defiant not being in the first battle of Deep Space Nine due to it being heavily damaged, or because the Klingon fleet was just too vast for it to take on. Now, I know it wasn't the case that the fleet was too daunting for the Defiant, because we see it in the second battle of Deep Space Nine with far greater numbers against it. It also served in battles that dwarfed the first battle of Deep Space Nine, so that's not a problem. It being heavily damaged is well taken, but I can't see the Klingons not blowing it to hell or trying to steal it when the shields failed on the station. I more think the writers just didn't think about the fact that the Defiant was there, or hoped we would miss it. Either way, it is what it is. Now let's get back into the actual lore of the USS Defiant. In getting into it, let's discuss the issues that people have when we see the Defiant fight the Borg. In my opinion, the Defiant gets a lot of hell for being beaten so badly by the Borg cube. However, I don't really think that's what happened. We even have canon evidence that the Defiant was holding its own far longer than the other ships and was ripping into the Borg cube. When you rewatch First Contact and listen closely to the battle before the Enterprise arrives, you hear that the Defiant is on the front lines and then falls back to several different positions, fighting the Borg at every step. This means that the Defiant would have been in the fight for arguably hours, given the Romulan neutral zone isn't exactly next to Earth, and it continued to fight until the Enterprise arrived. I mean, again, the Defiant would still continue to be beating the hell out of the Borg right before it was disabled, and it would still have the ability to ram the damn thing. In my opinion, the Defiant fought valiantly and probably lived up to its name. Of course, we can't be sure, but given that it was built to defeat the Borg, fought on the front lines, and fought all the way back to Earth for hours, this seems the most reasonable assumption. After the Battle of Sector 001 and the complete restoration of the vessel, the Defiant served a vital role in the Dominion War. After entering into the Gamma Quadrant with a warship conducting operations that included but weren't limited to black market trade, prisoner rescue, scientific research, and exploration, Starfleet had decided that it did not like the Dominion reinforcing the Cardassian Union. Even though the Cardassian Union had allied with the Dominion and it was perfectly legal for them to do so, in fact, you could make an argument that the Cardassian Union had joined the Dominion and was being reinforced, just like the Federation had done for Bajor. Just saying. Anyway, Starfleet had decided it would not allow the Dominion to reinforce its Alpha Quadrant borders and utilize the USS Defiant to mine the wormhole. This would be the opening action that officially started the Dominion War. Due to this action, Dominion and Cardassian forces would attack Deep Space Nine. The USS Defiant successfully mined the wormhole before picking up remaining Federation forces on Deep Space Nine and escaping, utilizing the cloak. You remember, the Romulan cloak that was only supposed to be used in the Gamma Quadrant and was now being used against the Dominion, which was an ally of the Romulans? And yes, they were allies. Rewatch In the Pale Moon Light. It stated several times that the Romulans were, for all intents and purposes, allies of the Dominion. For the first few months of the war, the USS Defiant was assigned to the Second Fleet, and a change of command would occur from Captain Sisko to Commander Dax. The Federation was playing a defensive game at this point, and the Defiant would be used in multiple confrontations, usually to bait out Dominion forces. The Defiant would also help destroy a Dominion sensor array that allowed the Dominion to see the fleet movements of the Federation for several sectors during this time. Captain Sisko would retake command, and the Defiant would play a central role in Operation Return, where the Federation retook Deep Space Nine. Take a look in the top right-hand corner for a breakdown of that battle. Interestingly, the ship switched between battle operations, rescue operations, and science pursuits. The Defiant assisted in looking for survivors after the USS Honshu was destroyed, conducted a study of a subspace compression anomaly, would again be commandeered by Jem'Hadar, though ultimately be freed due to the quick thinking of the Defiant crew, and attempt a mission to save Captain Lisa Cusack, or Cusack in the Latin, of the USS Olympia. Unfortunately, the captain was sending her message into the future and would not be able to be saved. The USS Defiant led the fleet at the First Battle of Chintaka, which was the first major victory for the Federation in Dominion space. Chintaka was also the first system to be captured by the Federation that had previously been within the Dominion domain. The Defiant would also attempt to assist troops later that year at the siege of AR-558, but was forced to leave due to the increased Dominion activity. Though, the Defiant would not stay gone for long as it returned to reinforce the troops. The USS Defiant NX-74205 met its end at the Second Battle of Chintaka when Breen energy-dampening weapons disabled it and was completely destroyed. Ultimately, they would lose the Chintaka system. The USS Defiant was a beast and one of the most powerful ships in Starfleet, and even the sector. It showed a return to creating ships that could pack a punch and be a part of a war and win. Ultimately, another Defiant-class ship, the USS Sao Paulo, would be renamed into the USS Defiant in memory of the ship itself. Because if there's one thing you can't do, it's avoid Sisko's pimp hand for long. Hey guys, if you like this, please consider checking out the video with the breakdown of the Defiant class in the top right-hand corner. If you want to continue to see videos like this, please consider becoming a Patreon. Links in the description below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.